tonight to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Alfred.
Chloe, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alfred.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative, and it's so nice to see everyone. Sorry I was a little late tonight. I see Lil Miss Sharon here, Ann Reynolds, good to see you. Lori, we have Town Chat Cafe, Suzanne, Trishy, I see Annette, Cece, momming it up. It's so good to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for hitting the like button and thank you for being here tonight. I wanted to do a couple more clips of Slow Jam in the news, and I don't want to do an extremely long live tonight. It'll probably be one of the shorter ones. Hey, Holly S., good to see you. But because there's a lot of content I was going over and kind of, just looking at different possibilities because there was a really great live today. So I don't want to spill the beans on which one I'm talking about, but I'm working on something for tomorrow night. So, hey, Alicia Hot Wheels, good to see you. Hey, howdy. Howdy, how are you? Town Chat Cafe, good to see you. Well, there you go. Fresh pot of coffee. That's probably what I need. I probably need like I like to do the double shots of, I'll make an espresso and then I'll do like milk and the frother and make a latte. So I need to do that. But I'm not tired. I think I'm really energized by all the stuff that I saw today, and then especially the one that I want to talk about tomorrow. But it's been with some crazy times on the YouTube streets, but there was some good messages today. And also, I wanted to slow jam the news with you guys today because I found some really cool things. It's funny how when we slow things down, because I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I will watch things in like super speed, or whatever, as fast as I can handle it, to get through as much content as I possibly can. And I think that there's a large percentage of us out there that do that. Or, especially if there's a few different things that you want to watch, right? Cece, can I give a hint? It was just something pretty positive and uplifting, and I was glad to see it because we don't see it a lot. Hey Vic, but then again, we might if we look for it. So I think it'll be a good message. But oh gosh, any clue I'm thinking of, I think I might give it away. I'm terrible at giving hints. Let's see. I might think of one though. But it's amazing to me that, we could slow down and just kind of notice little things, and especially like really examining an interview. And I didn't get as many clips as I wanted to get done. But then again, like I said, I was watching, some other things today and kind of preparing for show tomorrow. But I will do some slow jams tomorrow too. So I think it'll be something different. And then something that really can kind of capture just small small tidbits of information, to see what we can find. Because we do go in fast motion a lot of the times. No, I'm not telling Anne. Hey, Forrest, good to see you. Well, good. Busy is good. Busy is a good thing. I'm always glad to see you guys whenever everybody is here, and I completely understand. And there's so much out there, I'm so glad when you all decide to come over and hang out with me. So let's play this first clip. It's something that I didn't notice, so I hate to be repetitive, but we are slow jamming it. So it's different, but I wanted to show you something that I found today.
What would you say to him when he walked in that door? Oh God, I don't even know if I'd be able to speak. I'd probably bulldoze him down with hugs. Oh God, I don't even know if I'd be able to speak. I'd probably bulldoze him down with hugs. Honestly, when I picture that, I just picture being able to hug him, to hold him, to smell him. I mean, just to be able to hear his voice, to hear his laugh, being able to hug him, to hold him, to smell him. I mean, just to be able to hear his voice, to hear his laugh, to see him just be with us and be okay is like to see him just be with us and be okay is like I can't wait to see my son. I want to find him so bad. Like I can't wait to see my son. I want to find him so bad.
Okay, guys, so there's a couple of things in here I just kind of wanted to point out. And I tried to do it in like a segment, right? So when the interviewer, Holly Thompson, asks a question, I tried to kind of take that piece and then slow it down a little bit to see the reaction better, see the way that Katie kind of changes her facial expressions, right? That's what I'm kind of trying to focus really hard on, is Katie's facial expressions as she's speaking. So Katie's nose crinkles up whenever she talks about, Sebastian, smelling Sebastian, because she is asked, like, what would you want to say and things like that. But she says that she doesn't know what she would say because she would just want to bulldoze him down with hugs, So, hey, Seth, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hey, Seashell. Hey, Babs. Um, so, it's one of those moments where we could slow it down, and it shows to me a little bit more of a disdain when she crinkles her nose up there. And you guys can tell me what you think, of course. Hey, Sammy, I always want it to be something to where, you guys feel comfortable telling me what you think, in a respectful way, of course, always that we do. And this is all just my opinion and speculation. But I thought it'd be a good idea to slow these things down. Another thing that I noticed is that when Katie's explaining this, and you don't see any eye contact with Katie. Now, I understand. I mean, I don't always look right at you guys. Like, this is my version of eye contact with all of you, right? And so this is my version of it. But you might see me looking down at my notes, or you might see me looking up to recall something. My eyes are going to move around a lot. And that's just kind of how we are when we talk about things, or when we're talking. We don't want to have too long of an eye contact, but we do want to have enough to kind of make that connection and convey a point, right? Hey, Detroit Rock City, good to see you. And so when Katie doesn't look at the interviewer, it's for a very awkwardly long time, in my opinion, especially obviously when we slow it down. But it's just kind of showing how she's looking away from the person, not directly looking at them and answering the question. And, of course, I don't know what to make of that. I think we could do heads or tails of it, because it's something where, it's going to be up for interpretation. My interpretation is that she may be not being truthful because she's not looking at the person, right? She's looking down a lot of the time. And we notice that about Katie. She doesn't like to look directly at the person that she's talking to. Another thing might be somebody's, preferences, right? Their personality. That might be one thing that we can, take away from that it might just be her personality to not look at somebody when she's speaking to them. When Katie says so bad, right? We see her say so bad, and then she does the same like pursed lips afterwards that she did in the Chronicles of Olivia, right? Like, she purses her lips. That was horrible. I don't know. I did a bad impression. But she purses her lips up, where, it's just, when she says so bad, it's just kind of a little bit unbelievable to me. And the reason probably is the comparison that we did with Chris Watts, when he said he wanted Shanann and the girls home so bad, and he's like, so bad, right? And that's kind of the vibe that I was getting from Katie, where, it really wasn't something that she truly wanted, because, you don't feel it. One thing that I agreed with on the America's Most Wanted was when Harris Faulkner said, you can feel it from the dad, right? And that part is making me not feel it, right? In my opinion. And hey, Meg, good to see you. All right, guys, so let's watch this next one that I have here.
So tell me what you're feeling now. Here we are 1 year later. So tell me what you're feeling now. Here we are 1 year later.
I struggle to put words to how it feels, honestly. I struggle to put words to how it feels, honestly. I struggle to put words to how it feels, honestly.
In your mind, do you see Sebastian coming back through your front door? Do you feel he's okay, he's alive, he's out there? In your mind, do you see Sebastian coming back through your front door? Do you feel he's okay, he's alive, he's out there?
I dream about it every day. I dream that one day I'm gonna wake up and this is gonna be a nightmare, but I dream about it every day. I dream that one day I'm gonna wake up and this is gonna be a nightmare, but I dream about it every day. I dream that one day I'm gonna wake up and this is gonna be a nightmare, but yes, I believe that my son is out there somewhere. I believe that we are going to find him. We are going to bring him home, and we're gonna find a way to recover from this, and I'm gonna I want to watch him grow into a young man and, you know, live the life that he deserves to have. Watch him grow into a young man and, you know, live the life that he deserves to have.
Okay, so that was kind of like the end there when Katie purses her lips. It's kind of, you know, the way that I was kind of describing it earlier, or an example of it, right? So again, I think it's interesting when we can slow things down a little bit and look at it from a different perspective. First thing I noticed was the nervous hands, right? When I was slowing these clips down, I'm like, okay, their hands, and I zoomed in, right? Their hands are nervous, right? Katie taps her finger one time, you know, but then Chris is very nervous. You see his hands like, you know, he's nervous. You know, he's moving his hands around, right? Sorry, probably bad examples, but nevertheless, nervous hands in my opinion. And then we see the gulp, right? So the minute that Katie is asked the question about to describe how she feels a year later after Sebastian has been missing for a whole year, Chris gulps, right? And then he immediately shoots a look at Katie. And even in slow motion, this is a fast movement because, I mean, immediately after the question is asked, he looks at the interviewer, boom, back to Katie, looking at Katie, he gulps, right? And he also rolls his eyes at Katie. So when Katie starts talking about how she doesn't have words to describe and she starts going on about that, Chris rolls his eyes at her and he's kind of like, you know, I don't know if that was because they went off script. I don't know if that's because that wasn't what she was, you know, obviously supposed to say. Maybe that was something he wasn't expecting, or maybe it was a here we go again. But nevertheless, when you roll your eyes, you know, it shows that you're annoyed, and you're trying to kind of convey that, or it conveys through your body language that you're annoyed with whatever's being said. Hey, Hope Floats, good to see you. Thank you for being here. So, you know, we notice the eye roll. And then, let's see here. Holly Thompson has like a very positive outlook, right? She did that in the beginning of her interview with Chris and Katie last time. And I do have those. If you guys didn't watch them last night, we can play them really quick again. I don't have a lot of clips tonight, so just let me know if you'd like to see it again. But she talks about keeping a positive outlook, a positive attitude. And, you know, I don't blame her for that. That's what anybody would want to do. Keep hope alive, you know, that sort of thing. Hey, Miss Kim 77, but it also seems a little bit like she's coaching them, right? In my opinion, we got to keep hope alive, and she's, even using hand gestures and stuff like that. Now, Katie does smile at this, but then she goes quickly back into, like a more pursed lips posture, talking about, the nightmare being over eventually, right? Like hey Roxy R, the nightmare is going to be over eventually. And we also see that there's a part in here that I've slowed down, where you really can't see where Katie's lips are moving, right? Or excuse me, you can't really make out what Katie's going to be saying, but her lips are moving. I think that was the right way to say it the second time around. Hey, Bless, good to see you. And so, hey, Karen Powers, and so all of those little things kind of added up, in my opinion. And it's undeniable when you slow it down, you can really see these different gestures, right? And I didn't want to get too silly with it, because of course slow-mo can be kind of funny, in a certain way, because it's very drawn out, right? And stuff like that. But I think it's valuable if we kind of slow it down just a little bit to see how, what the differences are. And those are the ones that I noticed. But yeah, that certain point, and I still couldn't make out. And obviously it would be another thing where it would be purely speculative, and it would just be, what we think. There were, there's people that can lip read or whatever, claim to be able to do that. But it's something, I'm not sure if it's something that she was wanting to say but didn't, or if it was something she was thinking through in her head and she was only mouthing out words, right? Or what appeared to be words. Because she is looking up as if to recall something, right? And then she's saying, her lips are moving, but she's not, putting anything out. And of course, I mean, she says that she struggles to find the words, right? So that looked like she was struggling to find the words, right? But that little piece there, I really can't even speculate what I think it is. I just wanted to slow jam it for you so you could see it and make heads or tails of it yourself, And Town Chat Cafe says, I remember watching the replay from last night, and you mentioned that Richard Mann and that he owns a school. I honestly believe, in my opinion, they need to go search that place if they haven't already, in my opinion. Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on that as well, and I haven't put it all together. But I would like to know more about just all of it, before I speculate. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, and I've told you guys, the yellow jacket guy, has an apartment upstairs here. He's up there. Scranton says, Suzanne, oh, but not in court with BHB. Oh, sorry. All right, hold on. Oh, okay, the eye contact thing. Hold on, I probably need to go up. I apologize. Roxy says, I don't like when she's smiling and drops her head down and frowns like she forgot she had to be sad. It's weird. Well, and I thought it was strange in the first clips, right, where it was like she went from, a frowning face, right? This is going to be horrible. I'm doing horrible impressions tonight, but, all the way. This is terrible. I'm doing that all the way down, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm like up again and smiling and, bubbly. It was a strange transition, right? Because usually when we see people that are grieving and things like that, I'm sorry about my air conditioner kicked on. When people are grieving and things like that, we do see a downturned face. We do see, their eyebrows might be turned down, their forehead. There's very distinguishing features, right? When we all show emotions, usually our facial expressions are the same, right? I just can't do that face. All right. So, but nevertheless, I'm trying to, just point that out, right? The frown, right? And then all of a sudden to very happy and bubbly. It is a strange transition, just to kind of, kind of piece it out. And Meg says recover from this. Yeah, that was another thing. That's another thing. Hey, Patty Lee and Holly S says similar script each time. Right. And I don't know if it's something like where he was rolling his eyes where, you know, okay, this again. You know what I mean? Here we go again kind of a thing. Or if he was doing it more like, you know, she wasn't supposed to say it that time, you know, again that time. Because, you know, I think that they have been watching and crafting their stories based on what they see the public perception being. And what I mean by that is the more that they see from other people and what they're saying, they're changing and adapting to what they're seeing out in the public eye, in my opinion. And so in doing that, you know, I feel like it might have been more of like, oh, you weren't supposed to say that again, because remember that got a negative response, you know, and that sort of thing. So, yeah. Okay. Scranton Strangler says, Babs, it seems like, God, she can't even stick to the script after going over and over and over it, in my opinion. Yeah. And remember, you know, there has been speculation that there's probably been a lawyer that's been involved in the conversation and not allowing for certain things, and that sort of thing. The Pigfest t-shirt. Oh my goodness. I know. Karen, I agree. I agree. Seriously. And, you know, I know that was probably a little bit of a clapback, right? Because that's what Chris kind of does, right? He likes to stir up controversy, in my opinion. You know, Alicia, instead of letting it be, you know, very calm and, you know, normal, he wants to stir the pot. And Alicia Hot Wheels says, I've never felt grief/pain from her of Sebastian's stepmonster, but I have caught a possibility of regret 2 times, but couldn't tell if it was for Sebastian or them. You know, and that is hard, Alicia, you know, because we are analyzing, you know, again, facial features that are going to be, you know, not necessarily unique to all of us, right? Because we all make the same ones in different ways. Like, you know, as Roxy was saying, frowns, or, you know, your eyes will probably go down, you know, you're going to look sad, right? There's a look to it. You look happy. That's Meg. Yeah, be nice. I mean, you know, and this is all in not to bash anybody, but it's something to kind of take a different perspective on an interview that maybe we've seen plenty of times. But I think it helps to slow things down, because again, I do know, and I, like I said, do it too, where I will watch things in, you know, whatever speed I can handle the fastest. And I think it helps to kind of slow things down and just take a gander, you know, in slow-mo. Plus it's different, right? And it might help us understand a little bit more, because until I slowed it down, I didn't see the gulp that Chris did. I didn't see the nervous hands as well, right? And of course, you know, disclaimer, the second time you see it, it's going to be a longer clip because it's slowed down. So it's not like he's doing it for a longer period of time. It's just, it's slowed down. But again, you know, some of the facial features that we can catch in a slow motion, you know, like the one, like I said, when Katie crinkles her nose up. And, you know, the reason why I think that because is in the back of my mind, or maybe why I see that as a negative, is because in the back of my mind, I remember Katie going on a panel and saying that, you know, Sebastian needed deodorant and stuff. And then, you know, it just brings my mind straight to that, right? Because we also see a lot of changes of emotional differences in her facial expressions as she's saying that. It's not only the nose crinkle, it's other little nuances that we can pick up on if it's slowed down. You know, that we probably can still pick up on, don't get me wrong, but if you slow it down, it's more prominent. And Bab says, I think CP is so tired of the BS and he was called in to clean up her mistake. Well, and that might be possible. You know, that's a possibility, because we did talk about that theory or, a part of that theory, because it is possible, I think, that, maybe he wasn't involved if he wasn't in town, right? So let's just assume Chris was there and, or excuse me, let's just assume that Chris was not there, right? He is in Memphis, as Katie said first off in the America's Most Wanted interview. Right away, she states he was in Memphis. And let's just say that's true. So what if something did happen, or whether it was premeditated, an accident, we're not going to go into that, but just, let's just say something happened under Katie's watch and nobody else was involved. Maybe once she made the phone call to, Chris or whoever she involved first, and, all hypothetical, they were involved too if they didn't immediately call the police, right? Because then you're an accessory, after the fact, or whatever can be charged in this scenario. I am not a lawyer, so I have no idea. But, whatever can be charged would be charged, right? Based on what everybody's involvement is, what everybody's individual involvement is. Sometimes they'll charge everybody with the same thing. Sometimes people will roll on each other. Many, many things can happen. And Alicia says the way nothing to be proud of, but side eyes to make sure she is telling his story correctly. I can just imagine the boom after they leave interviews. Well, and Alicia, that's the thing. Like, he seriously whips his head over there, because when I slowed it down, it was still fast. And I'm like, whoa, that, like, I was shocked to kind of see that too, play out. So Suzanne thinks he needs to be nervous. And, I'm not saying that if the news wasn't interviewing me, I wouldn't be nervous. I probably would be. I get nervous about a lot of things. But, it comes with having anxiety. And maybe Chris does have anxiety. I'm not saying I don't know. But in the same way, it's funny that everybody was still. And then all of a sudden, the hands started moving when the question was asked. And Katie only tapped one time. She stayed completely still. And she only tapped her finger one time. Now, Chris was a little bit more, we saw more activity with Chris. He was, getting with them fingers. So, and that's just my opinion, it's just my observation. And, Cece, it could be a matter where, we heard from a couple of different sources, right? Let's be honest. We've heard from the neighbors. Heather P.I. originally said it too. There's been a lot of speculation about and witness accounts, and it's been alleged that Chris and Katie did not have a great time at the time Sebastian was, whatever happened to Sebastian. I hate to even say he disappeared, because, people don't disappear. But either way, about around the time before, they weren't having a great time of it, allegedly. And so I think that this could either bring somebody closer together or break them apart. Now, let's say hypothetically that Chris and Katie don't have anything to do with this at all, and that Sebastian, was taken out of the home by somebody else, right? A third party, which obviously I don't believe that, but just for, discussion's sake, say that is the case. Well, you might say that Sebastian was taken out of the house and Chris and Katie had nothing to do with it. So they're going to stick together, and he's going to be there for her because he loves her and he knows she didn't do anything wrong. Right. But we also see the narcissistic traits in Chris, and somebody like Chris, even if their significant other, spouse, girlfriend, whoever their partner is innocent, they tend to use that against them, or they will leave them if there's no involvement. And so that's where I get a little caught up, because if I'm, going to go with my theories, right, on this, then that would have to be the case that, I believe Chris is a narcissist, and I believe that if he didn't have involvement with Sebastian's disappearance, or, some involvement afterwards, him going missing, again, I just don't think that they would be together. I think Chris would have, at the very least not put up with it, and he might be to the point where he's, they're at a breaking point. You never know, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But it's just speculating. Miss Kim 77 says, it's like I want to tell her to get some more material because her quotes are getting old. Yeah, and that's the thing. Miss Kim, I think, he may have been feeling that way. Like, you're not supposed to say that, or go, here we go again, and he very well could have felt like that or been doing it. I mean, the eye roll is noticeable. But, nevertheless, and I think we really got more. Katie puts on a pretty good game face, right? But then once she's kind of talking and stuff like that, so whenever she's not talking, she has like a very stoic, very game face, resting face, right? But then when she starts talking, that's when we can kind of see more of, what's going on with her facial expressions, right? Because otherwise she just stays completely still. Chris, again, is more animated than Katie, in my opinion. Swivel over, gulp, Chris is not good under pressure. I'm just going to say it like that. He really isn't. And neither is Katie, in my opinion, but I think she handles herself a lot better than he does. Bab says, I noticed in America's Most Wanted interview, Chris was counting fibers in the carpet. What? Counting fibers in the carpet? Really? What? I must have missed that. See, we got a slow jam that one. No, I'm just kidding. Roxy R says, they did. I wonder if they even drove to the TV station together. Well, I don't know. I mean, even in the year interview that we watched last night, it was like they did the interview and then they cut to them holding hands. And it was weird because I've never seen that before, where they just like cut over for that. Thanks, Karen Powers. Thank you. They just cut right over for that. So, thanks, Blessed. Good to see you, Blessed. And thank you all for coming in. Welcome in, you guys. But yeah, it was just weird. It was like an afterthought. Oh yeah. Yeah, everybody's welcome here, guys. Everybody's welcome here. Yeah, we don't do that. Hey, Sharon, good to see you. You only get in trouble in here if you act up. No, I'm just kidding. You get a timeout and a juice box if it's not a crazy offense. Crayon 2, your choice of color. And Holly S says, this sweet boy can better the world, in my opinion. I think he already has, Holly S. I love that comment. I think he already has, even though it may not seem that way because there's a lot of ugliness out there. But I think that Sebastian has done a lot of good that he'll, he wouldn't know that he's doing just by the way that his light still shines on everybody, right? The impact that he has made on everybody that he encounters, right? Even, through the flyers, through talking about him. Like I said, even when I did the flyers, I was amazed by how many people were just like, all you had to do was show them his smile. That's it. And they wanted to know more, right? He's missing from where, you know what I mean? How old is he? And all of that. They wanted to know more because he just has that, that spirit, that energy, right? And that's why it's so important for us to not just, relinquish and the fact that, people do not just disappear, like, right? We just can't let that happen. We can't let people tell us that poof, he disappeared, because his energy and his light is so much stronger than that. So I agree, Holly S. And I think, he's teaching us a lot of lessons just through his case. Sebastian is a very awesome, special individual. Even though I don't know him, obviously, a lot of us don't. But I'm sure, you know, we've always gotten that picture from Seth anyway. We've always gotten that picture when we see footage of Sebastian, right? Even when he was little, like even when he was on the playground, even when he was in the school recital. Yeah, you know, you don't ever get rid of that light, that energy, that spirit. You never do. No matter what anybody ever does. No matter what they say, no matter what they do, and no matter what they've done to your earthly body. And, Bab says, remember Chris stated, when the truth comes out, it'll be amazing. When is the truth going to come out, Chris and Katie? Well, and see, that's the thing. I think that the general public feels like we haven't gotten that sort of truth, right? We haven't gotten the truth and the answers that we're looking for from the last person who was with Sebastian. And I think that's a big point of contention in the case, Babs. So thank you so much. Because I do think that. I do think we have not gotten the truth, the answers. Things are not making sense. Things are not adding up. And we're frustrated when we're expected to believe, otherwise, even though from our perceptions, it's clear, and Karen Power says, I would like to make it an interrogation robot that punches the liars every time they lie. Oh, Karen, that's hilarious. Of course, I'd have to donate it to law enforcement. Maybe Tennessee FBI should try it in Sumner County first. They get the prototype. Karen, that's funny. Oh my goodness, we needed a laugh. Bab says, not that I believe a word that CP nor KP says. They know what happened to Sebastian. Well, and that's what's so hard too. That's what keeps us watching them. And that's what's frustrating too, because even last night, we were talking about like, oh, we've all done, probably the wrong thing or, something wrong in this case, right? By like perpetuating something, replaying something, doing something, it's just, you can't ever get it all right all the time. It's never going to happen. Right. But I think it was, it's pretty clear that, a lot of people do believe that they know. And I think that if we had a more truthful conversation from Katie and it stayed consistent, it would be a little bit different. And that's just my opinion. So Trishy. gotta donate it to law enforcement though, because they're the ones that can administer. Oh Lord. Oh, wow. Yeah. Trishy says, Babs, I was just thinking about that statement, but it actually reminded me of Letitia Stout. Well, and Deception Detective had said on his podcast that, a good example on the panel would have been not Letitia Stout. She's the one that took her stepson's life, Gannon Stout's life. But his mother, Landon Bullard is her name. And I hope I didn't botch her last name, but he said that she would have been a good panelist on America's Most Wanted. And I thought, wow, that was powerful. She does. Yeah. And she does turn it on and off so fast. Right. And so, I was going over and I noticed that and I was like, okay, let me put it back in the, in the order again and show it again, how quickly it goes from, like sad, full frown to a full smile. Very different, very different. Sharon says, Edgar rolled those eyes, scared Kiki. Oh goodness. KK said something wrong. Well, and very possible, Sharon. I mean, and that's where I was kind of going back and forth between it. Cause I was like, it could be this and it could be this, and how like all of scenarios could have been wrong. And of course we're not Chris. And we're not going to know what he's thinking or feeling. But like I said, the body language can really tell us a lot, I think, if we can look. But I think that, you might be right too with the eye roll. Scared she said something wrong. Because again, they didn't get the brightest reception from Katie saying that, she doesn't have words, right? Because usually, and again, everybody's different. They handle things differently. So, but I'm just kind of thinking that it might have been something where it was maybe like, don't say that again, don't go there again, say something different. That's not what we had planned, And Scranton says, lady, the body language experts will tell you that's not natural. Amber Heard did that all during the Depp versus Heard trial, why she looked like she was acting. Yeah, Scranton, that is a great example of someone that, showed a lot of like a range of emotions, right? And again, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I do like psychology and I've taken classes in school, but I will say that that was the most recognizable to me as well. And I've said before that I think that Katie displays a lot of histrionic traits, right? And then in the Heard trial, Heard versus Depp trial, or I'm sorry, it is Depp versus Heard trial. Amber displayed and I think it was Johnny's psychiatrist or doctor that said it, but displayed histrionic tendencies or traits as well. So thank you. Yeah, definitely. And, and it did feel so scripted, right? I mean, and of course, and then we're all thinking to ourselves during that trial, because these people are real actors in real life, actress and actor, and, so yeah, but she was like overacting, right? So it was bad acting. Because I mean, I thought Amber was a good actress. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of roles that she really did, but she was very, beautiful, and there wasn't anything, I guess, really in depth that she had done that comes to the top of my mind. But then we find out that she is just a colossal liar, and nothing she says is true, and yeah. Really good analogy, in my opinion. And Karen Powers says, as long as the dogs don't get rabies from the evil monsters, no pets can be harmed in the making of the interrogations. Oh my goodness, that's funny. Bab says she thinks that Katie might have a sociopath. Yeah, or might be a sociopath, in my opinion. And Chris is her minion. If I would have read this probably, a month ago, I would have said, no, well, I don't know about that, Babs, but I'm really starting to think that, that's true, that Katie does call the shots, right? And I mean, I kind of put it in there because I noticed it during the first court date with Bullhorn Betty. It looked to me like Katie was really enjoying herself, right? Like she had like a sense of like accomplishment, or she was reveling in the fact that she was the center of attention, and she was getting somebody in trouble, and that sort of thing. But so yeah, I do think so. So yeah, Bab says Katie is a psychopath, or a sociopath, in my opinion, and Chris is her minion. I think they both feed off each other's negativity, and poor Sebastian got caught in the middle. God love his heart. Yeah, absolutely, Babs. I agree. Sebastian was caught in the middle, and I can just see it being a very toxic environment, right? Because somebody like Chris doesn't like to be controlled. He wants to control. So I think there was a level of that as well. So of course, when there's a power struggle of that magnitude, it can be really tough. But it's funny because Chris would say that Nina was a hothead, right? He called her that many times. And he said that was one of the reasons why they really didn't get along together, was because they could both be hotheads, right? So I wonder if that's something that he kind of enjoys, that power struggle. Just, my opinion. And Cece says Edgar just looked bored and wanted the interview over with. That could be too, Cece, with the eye roll. Yeah, like, oh, here we go. At least it's starting. Adam Forever 21 says that is not a mother missing a child. She's full of shit. Yeah, I know, Adam Forever 21, and I listened in on something today too, and I think that's what's so tough for all of the mothers out there, especially if you are in, the club that you never wanted to be into, like that, because I think that it's very difficult for you all to look at that and take it seriously, right? It's really got to be so tough. So thanks, Adam Forever 21. Because that's been the general consensus when you hear people's stories, right? Like, I lost my child, and they side eye Katie like more, maybe even more than I do, right? Because of that, because knowing that experience and seeing it play out is vastly different, right? And then your antennas are going up and you're thinking, what is wrong with this situation? And where's Sebastian? What is, and especially all of the inconsistencies. I mean, when those add up, it is even worse. So, Bab says, when my two best friends of 32 years were red rummed for no reason but by a thug, my mind went to places of torture that I wanted him that I never thought possible in my mind. Yeah, and and that's the thing. I mean, that's what hurt and anger and time and pressure can do. They really can. Or once you find out the truth or what has happened, one second, guys. Okay, I think he's done. He's really loud. Sorry about your eardrums on that, guys. But yeah, Babs, I mean, definitely, especially when it's a senseless crime, especially when it's your loved one, especially when, you find out what's been done to them, it can bring you to a very dark place of wanting revenge. And, that's why I think it's so important to remember, that someday justice is going to come, and I hope it came. I hope that your friends got justice. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. Adam Forever 21 says that's not worry or fear. It's in her hell to the no. That's not worry or fear in her hell to the no, says Adam Forever 21. Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I mean, it's very awkward, the whole entire way that it goes down, right? Detroit Rock City, the crane, right? The crane. Oh gosh. And all those other weird little toys that they brought out. It was so weird. If you were going to do that, wouldn't you put out Uno? Wouldn't you put out the Nintendo Switch? Wouldn't you put out, it's weird. It's like they want to confuse the situation. I mean, I don't know any other logical explanation that I can bring to the table. It just seems that way, right? I mean, Trishy says the laughter, the smelling comment is strange. It would, right after, yeah. It would actually trigger a very visceral response from me. I said that about my missing child. That would be one intense sorrow, not laughter. Well, you think about, Trishy, that's such a good point. Thank you. And you think about when your loved one has passed away, right? If you've ever had a loved one that has passed away, you might have like a special pillow or something, and it might still smell like the person, right? We all have our own scents. We all have pheromones. We all, have our, our scent, right? And just thinking back on that would make me extremely emotional too. And I think, again, it's just another thing that we see that's odd that just kind of really stands out because, even see, I think a mother's love is very strong, right? I think a father's love is very strong as well. And like I said, even in this case, it's shown me that even more how strong a father's love is, and how strong it can be. Um, but I always thought, a mom's love was the strongest ever. Um, and so, when you think about that, it's just a very different reaction that we're seeing. And so it throws us off completely, and we don't know we don't know what we're looking at, and we definitely can't relate. And so it makes it super awkward. And then we're like, what's going on? And then, everybody kind of gets upset about it, but it's like, you know, look, watch it, you have to watch and see, um, from that point of view. Yeah, you would never kind of make that sort of face after that, right? You would just be so fraught with emotion. Um, and Karen says, I get that. I never thought my mind would go there, but I've been some really awful stories that made me think I would volunteer to be executioner for death row. Well, and one of those stories for me, Karen, just even being a bystander, right, was the Chad Dorman and his three little boys, and what he did to the stepdaughter, and doing it in front of the mother. And it was absolutely horrific what he did. And even if I don't know if I could do that, but I would definitely want it done. And that goes pretty far for me, you know because typically I don't feel that way. But I definitely wanted that for that man who did that to his little boys like that. I thought, why don't you let him run away and see how far he can get before, um, and let him feel that fear that his little babies felt running away from him. So I get it. Scranton says, Trishy, especially when she previously said he smelled bad. Well, and see, that's why my mind goes there, Scranton. I'm not trying to be mean about it, or I'm not trying to just say, like, look at her, I can't believe it, like feign outrage or anything. But that's where my mind goes automatically when I saw that facial expression change. And I thought, oh gosh, it seems like she's faking it, right? And then but her body language is saying different. So what's coming out of her mouth is one thing, but then we see the nose crinkle, which is another thing, and then she goes into another range of emotions. Bab says, KP feels no guilt. She feels like she made the right choice. Her grief is feigned, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so too, Babs. I can see that. It doesn't seem like there's remorse. It seems like there's forced emotion, and it's really strange because Katie, when she's happy about something or when she's describing something, when she's smiling and things like that, even when she's not supposed to. And of course, we talked yesterday, sometimes we laugh when we're not supposed to at inappropriate times. Just depends on our personality. And how we deal with things. But again, and there's different types of laughter, right? But yeah, I see that it's definitely, she's trying really hard to seem like she's grieving, and it's much easier for her to talk about happy things, right? And she goes from one to the next quickly. Thanks, Blast. Roxy says there has to be something Seth can do to get them to tell what happened to Sebastian. I just wish someone would talk. Well, I just wish they would have been I don't know, I guess treated a little bit differently too, because it's a lot different when you're sitting in your house and the police are in there and they're talking to you. It's a whole nother situation when, you're taken down to the police station and you're put into a room and they're talking to you, right? Now there's a whole psychological difference, right? One thing, you're in your house, you feel comfortable. Even if you're outside of your house talking, you feel comfortable in that way, right? But the minute that you take the ride right down to the police station, even if they don't put you in handcuffs or whatever, even if they just kind of let you get in the back seat and they take you down there, it's a whole nother level, right? Because all of a sudden you're not in your comfort zone. All of a sudden you're not in a position of, I'm in my own home. This is my home, my rules type of a thing. Now all of a sudden you're in their home and you're dealing with their rules, right? Under their rules. And so it's a whole nother ball game, and when you get down there and they're talking to you in a room by yourself and you don't have somebody to swivel their head over to, it's a whole nother ball game, right? So that's another place where the ball was dropped, in my opinion. Some of us think that the evidence collected in the way that Chris and Katie were treated in the very, very beginning is the reason why we are without answers today. And I would have to agree. And I wish there was more that could be done, Roxy. And I know, and I think Seth is doing everything he can do, everything within his power. I really do. It just has to be relentless. Adam Forever 21 says she's too content now. A parent that didn't know where or how their child is or doesn't behave in a peaceful or content way. My ass. Credit to Mob Crew. Yeah, he says my ass. And I hope that was a good impression tonight. I'm not batting 1,000 with the impressions, but yeah, he definitely looked at the camera and said my ass. Hey, Mel Wilkie, good to see you. And the cranes, Karen's Power says, the crane, the smelling, the laughing, the different stories, they just annoy me so much. They're unreal. Yeah, it is annoying, Karen. And I think that's another thing, that is a takeaway from it, because it's like, oh gosh, you're waiting for that moment for some kind of a real truth to come out of Katie and Chris, and we never get that, right? And I think it can also be frustrating to see Mr. Chris sitting there with his hands clasped together. Oh, I'm just, the best little boy here, good little Chrissy today, even though I'm wearing my Pigfest shirt. That's his way of acting out, was the Pigfest shirt, right? He's just sitting there all, prim and proper. Very interesting. And Bless says, that's understandable. It's so terrible you had to go through that too, Babs. Yeah. Yes. And Adam Forever 21 says, in my opinion, they should be held in contempt in family court for not giving Seth his son and kidnapping. Oh, that's interesting, Adam Forever 21. I didn't think about that. Well, and Chris always wants to talk about that kind of stuff, as in, oh, Seth's doing something against the parenting plan. Well, I mean, they weren't telling Seth about what was going on with Sebastian, like the discipline methods that Chris liked to use. And I do mean that in the most sarcastic way possible. And Bab says, some say she seems medicated. There's no medication that would calm me if my son went missing, and I wouldn't want any medication to numb me. Oh, Babs, that's true. Yeah, I understand that. To deter me, from finding and searching for him. And that's interesting that you say that, Babs. That's a really, really wise and intuitive statement, because, I don't fault anybody, and by all means, if your doctor prescribes you something, take it. But I agree with what you're saying, because I think it's easier to take something and forget, right? And numb yourself. But it's a lot harder to face things and go through it and come out the other end, having felt all of it, because sometimes when you numb yourself too much, you don't feel anything. And so, and sometimes you can have that feeling of numbness when you go through a traumatic situation. So, I mean, I think it's really important to, be present. And I think that that is something that, is interesting. And in my opinion, that's how I would be. I would not want to be numbed to the point where I wouldn't be able to function or to carry on, because I would want to find my child. I mean, there would be nothing else that mattered, you know. Hey, Debutan, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Ooh, you're watching me on the big screen. Uh-oh. Look out. Oh. Aw, hoping everyone's doing well, praying. Aw. Oh, I hope your surgery went well. My goodness. Okay. Yeah, well, you get cozy and everything. I won't keep you too long. I hope you have a speedy recovery. And Mel Wilkie says, G-Day at Lori. Oh, good day. I got it. Good day. I have come over from Julie's channel mod. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, Mel. That's fine. Of course. Of course. Of course. Cece says there are trauma bonded now. Tons of hate for one another. Yeah. Well, and that's, Cece, that's a really good point too. Trauma bonds are a real thing, right? It's where, something's happened between, two people, or, maybe could be a little bit more than that, I guess. If y'all went through it together, right? Even maybe 4 people could feel that way. But then it could bring up a lot of resentment, right? So you want something, through something horrific, right? And you're kind of bonded by that experience. But then again, it could build a lot of animosity and bad feelings, bad blood, right? Because of being in that situation, right? Or having to cover for, right? Think about if hypothetically they are having to cover for each other, right? That could be absolutely exhausting. That could be, think about how you would have to worry about what somebody else is doing or saying all the time, because it could really screw you over. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure, thanks, Lori. Thanks, Meg. Looks like a clown. Adam Forever 21. I'm sorry if I get behind in chat, guys. I just love reading your comments. You guys are always so smart. Justin said that they never ride together. Oh man, really? So they just drive separate? Is it because they're getting off of work or something and they schedule it after work? That's strange. Babs, if anyone was on meds, I think it was Chris. LOL, keep that dog on a leash. Maybe that's why he behaves when he's in those interviews. They get him all. They give him a couple. It'd probably only take me a couple of Benadryls and I'd be ready to, I'd be sedated enough. I'll be too tired to do the interview. Cece says he couldn't leave her now because it would mess with him seeing his daughter. He can't predict what she will do if he left her, and the same for her. Yeah, she can't leave him because of what she may tell. Right. No, I understand that, Cece. That is a really, interesting comment and true statement, in my opinion. Hey, YouTuber, good to see you. Yeah, I can see that, right? It's like it's a catch-22, right? And they can't, even when they're together, they can't predict it. But I mean, if they're not together, then there's even more chances. And another thing is what if they get together with somebody else, right? And then they feel they have a confidant in that other person and they tell that other person information. Well, that could really blow things, so they absolutely have to stick together. I mean, if they don't, then that's going to be one, crack in the foundation, right, of what they're doing here, in my opinion. Wow, they don't ride together. That's Meg says I've had the green crayon and the Capri Sun. Yeah, good point, Scranton. Chris fidgeting is self-soothing, pacifying, in my opinion. Very well said. I agree. Because he got absolutely nervous right away, right? He was still, and then the question was asked and he got nervous. Um, Absolutely. Hey, SBC Foundation. Good to see you. Or SCP Foundation. Dang it, I did it right the other night. Dang, good to see you. Meow. Good to see you. Um, Doesn't that sound fantastic as an adult? Meg. I must have missed Trishy's comment there. Let's see. I wish I could give Seth a big hug. I know. Scrat says, I think they already are. They both have aged 20 years in 1 year. They look awful. Well, I mean, I have to say, I think Chris was doing the Just for Men, right? Because like his beard was dark in this one. I mean, you can kind of see him a little bit in that one, but and then up here on the, upper right-hand corner, he's like full salt and pepper, But this one, he looks like he dyed his hair and and his goat. Blessed says, I love how Sebastian loves animals. Aw, yes, Blessed. Exactly. Yeah. Caring people, that's a caring trait, you know what I mean? For Sebastian to have, that he likes, other living things. Unlike Chris. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's terrible, guys. I need to behave myself over here. Detroit Rock City says, Sebastian has brought us all together, and for that I am grateful. I pray every day that I wake up he is found safe and sound and back in his daddy's arms. Oh, Detroit. That's what I'm talking about. And it's another absolutely positive thing that Sebastian has done that, he probably doesn't know about. He probably has no idea. It's like all these people come together for you every night and they talk every day. They go, because I know everybody kind of travels around in different channels. Everybody that does that, comes together and sits at a table and talks about Sebastian. Detroit, that was amazing. And Scranton says, one of the mediums I have listened to said that this is going to follow Katie beyond her lifetime. It's going to affect her family for generations. Wow. That's interesting, Scranton. I suppose any big event like this would, It's crazy. Halia says, oh, I bet he stays on her. Megan L says, mamas of true missing have words, lots and lots and lots of words. Yes. Gosh. I mean, I don't even know if you guys would ever hear the end of me if you know what I mean? It's just amazing. And that's another big difference, right? Megan, I appreciate you saying that. Hey, Hindsight, good to see you. Good to see you. Sorry, I'm so behind in the chat. Good to see you. Yeah. Hindsight says, YouTube, or thank you, focusing on this child. Amen. Amen. Yes, that is right. He's who's important. He's still missing out there. And, I know that we all rack our brains and like, okay, what could have happened, right? We get the time frame, we get the timeline. We're like, okay, this happened, maybe this happened. This is how long it would have taken for this, but it just could make your head spin with all the, unknowns, right? Because when you only have a few unknowns to the puzzle, it's a little bit easier to solve. But the fact that we have many unknowns is difficult. And then the circumstantial knowns that we have are very strong, in my opinion. And so it makes it very hard for us to, overlook that, Mel Wilkie says, so KP is the intelligent one and CP is her brute force. So sad for Sebastian, and I think that's the truth. I think Katie's very intelligent. And I do think that Chris is a brute. Well said. You know, and that's allegedly, in my opinion. Scranton Beagle, he notices he's so loud. Like, I can't believe how loud he is. He's always been like that. Even when he was a puppy, he'd be like, bop, 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 like really loud. Puppers has an opinion. AC Taylor. That's funny, right? He's over there. He hears one little noise. He's like, what's going on? I need to figure it out. Forrest says they are brazen and they believe the crane has hidden a message while they laugh, in my opinion. You know, I agree, Forrest. I think they are brazen, and I did not like their very jovial look, right, from last night. I'm going to get caught up on these clips, or excuse me, I'm going to get caught up on these comments, and I want to play that clip from last night, because I agree, Forrest, you're right. They are brazen, and they do, you know, find it funny to dupe people. You know, they have the duper's delight. I agree. And it may be a hidden message. Let me go up here and I'll play this for you guys. Let's see, we slow jammed. Hopefully we could find that one. It would have been, okay, I'm trying to think. Okay,
Do you normally wake up around 6 o'clock? So were you instantly thinking something's wrong, or were you like, he may just be already in the shower?
I took a
in the living
second.
room?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband. I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
The next morning, when I went in his room, he wasn't in his bed. After a minute or two, when I couldn't find him, I called Chris and I said, I can't find Sebastian. He's not in the house.
I got off of work and I had a text message from Sebastian's stepfather.
I said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian's missing.
I
said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian's missing.
I headed straight over to their house.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be in the house, you know, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside. I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
I started driving through the neighborhood. I was panicking. I was looking everywhere, like, where is he? What happened? Did he go with someone? Did someone take him? By the time I pulled into the school, Christopher was already telling me to turn around because the authorities were on their way.
So you said you were on the phone with her, so
Yes,
you were not home?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was at work. I'm a tower crane operator, and I was working in Memphis at the St. Jude Project. So it's, you know, I have an earpiece in that talks to my phone. I have another earpiece in that does the radios. So when she was talking to me, it was like, what? I was confused. We talked about where he could possibly be, and then we went from there and led to calling the cops, and here we are now.
And within minutes, they're there at the home.
Yes, ma'am.
It was rapid fire. They had cars.
They
They had
lied.
cars from here down to the
main
road,
road.
as far as I could tell.
So what's going through both of your minds? I mean, are we panicking? Is it this, oh, I think he's probably at a neighbor's house, or what are you thinking?
My son doesn't run. He's not a runner. He's never run away before. I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door.
I mean, he's a good kid. He's not a mischievous child by any means.
We have nothing. We just have speculations. We get criticized. The father gets criticized. Law enforcement's been criticized.
But there's answers to questions that have no answers, or questions with no answers right now that we are searching for desperately, and we just don't have that.
Marks 1 year since Sebastian Rogers disappeared near Beach High School in Sumner County.
My life is not the same without my son. He's not here, and he's somewhere. Someone has him.
Both very, very content. The looks on their faces are content. They're very jovial. They kind of look like they're setting it up for Sebastian to come home and see it, in my opinion. And I still can't make out what that box is. What character is in that box? But it's kind of, it's weird. It's awkward. Chris just kind of, pushing it across the table there, or countertop. Vonna, you brought up a really interesting point. And hey, Tony Fire, good to see you. Good to see you. I'm sorry you're having keyboard issues tonight, but I'm glad you're here. Now, the narcissistic discard phase, right? So when a narcissist is done with their supply, right? And I am talking about an unsuspecting human being at this point, in most cases. But when a narcissist is done with their supply, they will discard you, right? And they won't give you any reason. They'll just ghost you. They'll never talk to you again. And they'll make you feel like you did something wrong when really you really didn't. It's just them, right? And then a lot of them will like to hoover you back because they like to get you back, right? And they want to see if they can get you back, and then it's a victory, and then they can, discard you again. But there's also a level of triangulation that we see with a narcissist as well, where they will triangulate within the family or within, a social group, because this can happen at work in different settings as well. Any relationship you have with the narcissist, you're at risk for these things to happen, right? But this triangulation where he could have been telling Katie, Sebastian is the problem, and triangulating between the three of them. And once they got rid of Sebastian, so to speak, which I hate saying that, but for all intents and purposes of the conversation here, then he would want to discard Katie again, right? Because now Sebastian isn't here, so he isn't the problem, but who's going to be to blame? Katie, right? In my opinion, allegedly. But just really interesting, Vonna. So thank you for bringing that up, because I honestly think it's very interesting, and I think it fits in the case really, really well. He spends time on national TV complaining, right, and not searching or looking for Sebastian. I agree. Towncheck Cafe says, YouTuber, I think it is the one of the relatives' business private. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. I didn't know that was a private conversation. Scranton Strangler says he tripped up. There's answers to questions. Yes. They have the answers, in my opinion. And I believe so too. And I did find that to be a little trip up or a slip up there. So good point, Scranton. And, he even said, excuse me, and stopped himself. Absolutely. And Forrest says he looks at her to say, I don't know why he walked away, or he walked out that door. Right. Yeah, he does. He does look right at her, right? And we do see those moments where Chris just looks at Katie, right? Because usually he's looking straight. He's not, rubbing her shoulder. He's not holding her hand or anything. But he does swivel his head over, pretty quickly during certain questions. And Sharon says, Chris, you have had nothing nice to say at all about Sebastian. Even when he does, he'll be like, I'll give him that. Sharon and I agree, even when he would say something even remotely nice about Sebastian, oh, he's got some good one-liners, I'll give him that. Or one time he said he likes to play, I'll give him that. It's like, what? Weird. Town Chat Cafe says, YouTuber, it was discussed on this channel previously. Ask Lady Freedoms about it. Oh, okay, so I did miss something. Sorry, guys. Let's see. I believe that, too. Les says, Meg, truer words never spoken. Mom of missing children not only have endless words, but they will appreciate any opportunity to use them. Really well said, you guys. I mean, you know, absolutely. And that's what we're not seeing here. And it's like really frustrating. So we're just like, what is going on? What is happening here? We feel like we're in the Twilight Zone. Town Chat Cafe says, allegedly, I heard there are tracks around that water tower and crane and could reach that high, in my opinion. Well, and yeah, I know what you guys are talking about. Can't find him, not Sebastian Forrest. Yes. And, you know, I noticed Katie was using using Sebastian's name more and more in her interviews. She was, you know, she was using his name a lot more in the America's Most Wanted video. So again, I think they're adapting, you know, as they're watching, in my opinion. And Town Chat Cafe, the water tower YouTuber, the one that's right in town. Because yeah, when we have talked about that too, I could try to link it. I could try to link that live because we showed pictures of it, and the lock seemed to be, you know, it's an older water tower in town. I'll have to go back through. I can't remember what our topic was originally that day, but it ended up going down kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole. You know. See, and Sharon says, liar, I don't believe he was at work. You know, I wonder because, you know, that was the first thing she told America's Most Wanted, you know, he was at work and then we were at the Roadhouse. You know, it was kind of weird, as if, you know, if Chris was normally home, we wouldn't have went to the Roadhouse. That was weird too to me. You know, it's this interview makes me more sick than any of them. 8 days missing. Right. And they went out after after 8 days, after they scaled the search back. Right. And then shortly after that, there was the landfill search. Hey, Serenity 72. She says, I think that this is the first time I have heard her call him Christopher. Yeah. She does it a little bit here and there. Right. Sometimes she does call him Chris. I've heard her call him Chris and Christopher. The rocking that she's doing is a self-soothing action. Yeah, and she starts to do a little bit of rocking in this in the year interview with Holly Thompson, but it's not as pronounced, right? It was kind of just like a little bit. And the other one, she was really getting at it, you know, in my opinion. Let's see here. Chris looks preggers. Oh Lord. Forrest says, I'm glad he's got the right color, or orange. He wears the orange a lot, doesn't he? He wears it. I've seen him in that polo before. Hey Lolo. And Town Chat Cafe says, and if I do replay it, it's because I'm searching on other tabs, so I'm not ignoring anyone. Okay. Oh yeah, no worries, Town Chat. Yeah, YouTuber says, Town Chat Cafe, the YouTube psychic that Silvers was following said Sebastian was hidden near a disused water tower, or excuse me, disused water tower. Yeah, it was an old water tower. I'm still trying to think of what episode that was that we did, or which live it was. And Hindsight says it's a long road they travel in the narrative of a narcissist. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you never know when they're going to hoover you back or, decide to stalk you because you put up boundaries. There's a lot of really tough things that come with it, right? Because they do everything on their own time. When they discard you, you're not expecting it most of the time. Sometimes you are because they will treat you really, really badly up until that point. But it is a long road to travel with the narcissist. It really is. Thanks, hindsight. Yeah. Sharon says Edgar ate all the time and he got on Sebastian being in the kitchen to get a snack. Yeah, it always amazes me, Sharon, and I've said that before, it's always the parents that, look like they're very well fed and taken care of, but the kids, well, they eat too much or, blah blah blah, and then they're thinner, and it's just another thing that doesn't add up. Sharon says, poor Sebastian, every time he turns around, Edgar was getting onto him. Yeah, I really believe that he was, walking on eggshells. Yeah, see, Taylor, that was the guy, Richard Bishop. He is an attorney in PA. And I'm still working on to see, if that school thing is, something to talk about. Town Chat Cafe says, oh, wow, really? There is also a something square on the ground, too. It could be a well or something. Oh, that's right, with the grate. It wasn't like a grate over top of it, but it looked like a hole, or kind of like a manhole. Can recall it. Maybe she can tell us the date. Yeah, let me find that for you guys after this live, and I will link it in the description. I mean, it wasn't terribly long ago, I don't think, was it? A lot of people think that YouTuber, I firmly believe that Sebastian is on a private property owned by / connected with the family, in my opinion. It would be locations that would be known to somebody where they would potentially, put someone, right? I agree. And, that was a strong possibility for me in the beginning because of the fact that, Mama Socks is a real estate agent, so she would have access to more properties and, locations. So, Bab says Katie knows exactly what happened to Sebastian. I won't even call him her son anymore because she's not a mom. Sebastian was forced to call Chris Mr. Chris. What the hell? Yeah, and it's so frustrating, Babs, and I know people might say, well, that's a term of endearment. That's a sign of respect. I just don't agree. I just would never feel comfortable with my child in their own home calling their stepfather Mr. first name. I think that is more disrespectful in a way, and it just, I guess maybe not even as disrespectful, but disconnecting themselves from your child. I would wonder why my partner was wanting to disconnect themselves from my child, because that just really seems kind of harsh. Lolo, I'm tired of that too. I'm tired of hearing CP say there is zero evidence. He's wrong. There's the 3 a.m. lights and all the slip ups, leakage from the mom and the stepdad. Absolutely. And, tons of red flags to boot, and I understand that, red flags aren't something that they're going to, maybe it's not evidence, right? But it's definitely cause for alarm. We'll just put it that way. Yeah. Hindsight says, Forrest, the term you use, brazen, is the definition of why, in my opinion, I feel he is with someone and not physically harmed. Their demeanor is so brazen for that harm to have come to him. I pray. Yeah, hindsight, that's a really good point. And I can see that. I can see what you're saying there because, they seem too okay with everything, right? As if they know more than we do. And here we are, a bunch of fools, and haha, you guys don't know, but we do. I get that, you know? And I like that you're attributing that to a hopeful situation. Because I've often wondered it, and even with the schools, like I'm still not done with the school theory, you know? It's still a piece of the pie, you know, of what I think might have happened to Sebastian, you know, one possibility. And I think that would definitely be a reason, you know, that could, you know, lead me to that is, you know, thinking, okay, look at their behaviors and look at how brazen and bold they are. Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, and then again, Lolo, that's true. I mean, KK using Sebastian's name more and more is 100% tactical. Yeah, she's definitely showing tact. She's definitely watching and looking, in my opinion, you know, to see what people are saying and then crafting what she's going to say to that. Um, Ah, Babs. Babs says Katie was using his name because they were watching Deception Detective, Behavioral Panel, and Mike Damon, but you cannot fool us. That's right, Babs. That's true. And I do think so. I think they watch all of the stuff. You know, they say when people send them stuff or, you know, they're hashtagged in it, they'll go watch it. You know, they've admitted that. So I think that it's fair they don't watch every single thing that comes out. But I mean, there's probably certain people that they're a little bit worried about. Mob Crew seems to be one of them, you know, because Chris is getting upset with anybody messing with the 3 a.m. lights video. They're very bothered by it. Yeah, a YouTuber says Scranton Ellie should be more creative and find a probable cause for a search warrant for all the family, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, there's just too many bad actors within the group, in my opinion, too, you know. Um, Mike Gammon says they're taking all the tips from the experts and adapting them to their ever-changing story. We see right through you, KK and Edgar. Well, let's be honest. Even Yeda said that to Bullhorn Betty. I mean, I understand that Yeda has retracted a lot of what she said, and you know, for whatever reason, those reasons are her own. But I think there's a lot to be said about that because even she said when she was watching the interviews, she noticed that pattern as she was watching the interviews, that they were adding details and it was probably based on what people were saying, right? Because lots of times we can watch the live chat and, you know, that sort of thing. And sometimes, you know, the creator themselves might say something that will strike a chord, right? You know, I mean, I'm sure Chris is not going to like the fact that I pointed out the gulp, but, you know, when you're nervous, I mean, that was a big gulp. You know, I mean, that was a very noticeable one, even when I didn't slow jam it. So, um, YouTuber says Lady Freedom's raw narratives, all good. Thanks anyway. I know that what the tower was about. Oh, good. Okay, great. Yeah, just saying that YouTube Psychic Silvers was dealing with mentioned a disused water tower near disused building and possible water treatment trap. I see. Yeah, and I think that was the one that we were talking about. It might have been because it was on the property, right? It was on I wish Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom was here because I know we were talking about it that night. You know, we have to exhaust all possibilities, you know. Forrest says, hindsight, I totally agree. Also, they want us to believe he is not with us. So I believe the same. Oh, that's a great point, Forrest. You know, and that's what they have been saying all the way up until, you know, the America's Most Wanted. It's like they wanted to paint the picture that Sebastian could have been taken or that he left willingly with someone. So really strange, right? And then Katie turns around and tells the fire ant story, which I was like, okay. Vanna says, I guess Sebastian isn't there eating all of CP's snacks, and it shows CP is getting all his special snacks these days. Well, and I think, you know, it's probably too just being in the house all the time, not going out. You know, if he was out there looking, he would work off some of that stuff, you know. Sharon says, I wish law enforcement got back to their house, search it inside the basement and that yard. Yeah. Yeah. I wish they would too. Oh Lord, really? Tony Fire? Oh my goodness. Tony Fire says things on YouTube got real this week. First BJ got CPS, then Crabtree home got raided, but it just seems someone in the community is losing it. When will it be Mr. CP? All of these people. Tony. Tony, that is a fantastic comment. I will tell you what. Yes, sir. I mean, we got people that didn't do anything wrong are getting false reported on. I mean, I don't know what Crabtree was rated for. Just saying. Oh my gosh, where's Mr. Chris? Oh my goodness sakes. Oh, that was a doozy. Babs Babs says neither of them have ever missed a big meal. Oh God, you guys. Oh, did you see I reposted it on my community tab, but it was Mandy from Spirit Seeker Squad posted it, and I had to repost it. But in the fifth picture, it was funny. It was showing the wall Martians, right? But this lady had a super duper fupa right there. I mean, it was a big fupa, buddy. Just hanging out at Walmart. Oh Lord. Scranton Strangler says CP's hair reminds me of a squirmy. Sorry. CP's hair reminds me of Squiggy from from Laverne and Shirley. Remember that show? Am I dating myself? No, you're not. I know who you're talking about, and I do love Laverne and Shirley. That's so funny. Oh my God. You guys are killing me. YouTuber says poor Sebastian has likely been moved at least once. Other reputable psychics are set on different locations. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of speculation in that realm. You know what I mean? And just so many people working hard to figure out where he is, Um, Sir Ivana says, True Babs wasn't one of the complaints about Sebastian was that he was rummaging, their food. Yeah, rummaging for snacks. It's like, what the heck? Yeah, he could have just called him Chris. That's true, Babs. Could have just called him Chris. That's a novel idea. I mean, and that's a conversation that you have with the kids, what do you feel comfortable calling me? You know what I mean? That's more so. Well, I wonder what Sebastian felt comfortable calling him. I'm sure he had some choice words, as Katie would say. Thanks, hindsight. I wonder what happened to those cameras too. Yeah, Bab says Chris actually laughed about and was so certain about Sebastian being seen on camera if he went to the kitchen to sneak snacks. What happened to those cameras? Yeah, Nina knew about the cameras too, and she asked and he didn't say anything. Lori says the school for sure. I have felt that they have him hiding since the beginning. Lori, I can't, discount it. I can't disagree with it completely because the more information that we find out about these schools and how secretive they can be and how money talks and, nothing else matters as long as they're getting paid. We heard about a large transaction. We don't know, where everybody keeps their money. There may be, money someplace else. So, it's important to follow the money trail for sure. But I also think that we can't really even discount this because a lot of the times these schools will set it up and they'll come get your kid. I'm going to see what I could work on for tomorrow because there is something. Maybe I could record it. It's hard because, it's a Netflix doc, and so it's not going to be out there really in pieces or anything. But I think you and I can easily guess what happened to those cameras. Oh, and I wonder if they were looking for stuff like that over in the landfill too. Scranton says, question, have y'all ever heard them say we didn't harm Sebastian? Even at the year interview when asked KK didn't say we didn't do this. She said, stop, consider where you get your info. Yeah, consider the source. I do remember Katie saying, consider the source. You know, and I think that's one thing that I've said in the past myself is consider the source. But you're right. She doesn't answer the question, and we've never heard them ever come out and like publicly just be like, I didn't do this. You know what I mean? I did not do this. There's always something where Katie will just change the subject. Even when the caller called in to Queen Bee and Katie was confronted, she just said, you know, I do say my son's name. Because he's my son and I love him. So there's that, you know, but she never been, you know, if that was me and somebody came up on the panel that way and asked me like in that manner, because I can see how it maybe could have looked a little bit, you know, threatening or whatever, or pointed. At the very least, I would have said, ma'am, I'm sorry if you feel that I hurt my son, but I haven't hurt my son, or I didn't hurt my son, right? Flat out say it, like you said, Scranton. I didn't do this, and I'm just focused on finding him. But we've never heard her come out and say that. Good call. Great point. I got to look back and see if I've heard her ever say that. But I never remember her like ever coming out and looking in the camera and be like, for all you people who think that I hurt my son, da da da, you know. But we haven't seen that. It's a little too late to start using his name, Forrest. I mean, you know, we all kind of get it, right? Hey, wait, what? Good to see you. Good to see you. There's the camps with kids that have disciplinary issues, Anne. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and those are the places that Chris and Katie were focused on, you know. Bab says she thinks they've been checked by Dog and his team. I know they checked a lot of them. I even called a couple, you know, myself. But I was calling to the Centers for Autistic Individuals, right? If I was innocent, I would be shouting that from the rooftops. I agree, Scranton. And a lot of people can't handle that, right? They're like, I didn't do it, damn it. You know, they're going to say it. YouTuber thinks there's a crush. Aw, poor Justin. What? Oh, Lord. No. Tone Check Cafe says, in my opinion, Luke looks like likes to play mind games and use reverse psychology. So hopefully, with that said, I pray that Sebastian is still with us and in hiding somewhere, in my opinion, allegedly. Yeah, I hope so too. And I don't think it hurts to, you know, speculate and figure out what's going on. Oops, I mean Mr. Golden Banana. Tony. Oh, Lord. Mr. Mini Banana is what I heard. Limp Banana. Deb's off with 1729 says that. Sorry, guys. That's what I've been thinking also, that he's attracted. Oh, Lord. You guys are killing me tonight. Hey, G of Twins. Good to see you. Crabtree wasn't really rated. Okay, G of Twins says, Crabtree wasn't really rated. It was a spoof video. He was trying to be funny. Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad to know that he wasn't. Oh, Lord. Well, because I was just thinking to myself, G of Twins, like, oh, Lord, if he was, you know, because I didn't know if they called him and tried to get him in trouble. Like, those are the things that are happening, you know, on these on these streets. Thank you for clarifying that too, because I like to get the good information out here, right? Thanks, G of Twins. And Town Chat Cafe says, thank you. And yes, I am searching the area now to see if he owns a school and which one. Oh, cool. Cool, Town Chat Cafe. That's awesome. I mean, I never heard that he had, I mean, even if he had an affiliation with the school, I might, you know, side-eye him a little bit. You know, like I said, something is up with the hoodie, you know. Excuse me, the hoodie. Poor green hoodie. I keep throwing him under the bus. The yellow jacket guy. You know. Well, guys, I think I'm going to have to get off of here. and I'll be working on some stuff. Hey, Cinderella, good to see you. I'll be working on some stuff too for you guys tomorrow. There's a couple of little tidbits. I wonder if I could just like, do like an audio version or something. I'm going to have to look back and see. But it's not as far-fetched as maybe I would have thought in the beginning. So I think it'd be interesting for us all to discuss our thoughts on it. When we hear kind of how things can be done in that situation, I will Town Chat Cafe. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I've been just overwhelmed with info lately. Cinderella says I would be begging to be cleared so they could find my child. Allegedly, yellow coat guy is on the board of the school in Pennsylvania. Just what you're talking about, all hearsay. Yeah, Cinderella, that's what I heard from Lolly Beautifully Broken. Is that, I hope I'm saying that right. I do like her channel. And I did like her coverage and what she was saying. And I thought, okay, well, if that person is, affiliated with the school, yeah. And then back to Pennsylvania, wait, what says CP wants to be famous and a celebrity. Careful. Fat boy. Oh Lord, what you working for? Behind bars they have cameras, they don't work all the time. Abstained. You guys are killing me. Mullet in the front row. See Taylor. Oh my goodness. Oh. Chris nor Katie had never said they never had anything to do with the disappearance of Sebastian. Like, think on that. I mean, I can't recall when they've like come out and actually said that, like looked at us and said it, right? Like, because I would be like, we were talking about eye contact earlier, and I would be like in the camera at you guys, like not breaking any type of eye contact and demanding that you understand that I had nothing to do, because that's really what I think we're looking for, any little piece of real, right? Any little piece of truth, any little piece of anything to make us believe otherwise, because I think, some of us were believing this awful stuff. It's hard, every time. And then, Clue egged him on the last time too. I gotta hand it to her because she was like, you just broke my internet. Like they feign him, or excuse me, they don't feign him. They placate him, and they oh look at you breaking our internet, and they're like, it's polish, polish them turds. And YouTuber says, wait, what? Every time he goes on panel, he says he's breaking the internet. He thinks he does. He thinks he's that powerful, Edgar's so full of himself. Scran. Oh goodness, is he ever? Oh no, you guys. No decoys. It's too dangerous. Well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for making me laugh. Thank you for saying such smart comments, and, always just, trying to explore these things with me, because I really appreciate you all being here and giving me your feedback, telling me what you think. I think it's pretty interesting when we kind of slow jam things, so I hope you did too. And I'll work on a couple comparisons for tomorrow, and we'll let's discuss the school. I think that would be a really great live to do that. And then hopefully I can get together a little bit of some good that I saw. I think I can edit out some pieces and get it all together for you guys tomorrow. Hindsight says, compare the nostrils and the nose of both Yellow Coat and the man allegedly Richard Bishop. You will see it is not him, in my opinion. Yeah, nose and ears are the first step of identifying facial recognition. Yeah, I agree, Hindsight, and thank you. So nose and ears, you're right? One thing I was looking to see is if Yellow Jacket guy's ears were pierced, right? Because the other guy has his ear pierced. But also, like you said, everyone's ears are unique to them, right? And then also noses, right? Like I have a really incredibly small nose, you know, incredibly little. Like people used to tease me about it and stuff. So, you know, and or pointed out like your nose is so small, you know, and things like that. So you're right. And you know, you could sometimes you could really tell, like, you know, somebody might have a very pronounced tip at the end of their nose. Some people might have a wider set nose. So absolutely, that is really good. Thank you for that hindsight. You're right. You're welcome, Cece. Thank you guys for being here. All right. Well, I will see you all. You all have a wonderful night. Stay safe out there. Keep the faith, like Seth would say. And, you know, let's all say prayers for Sebastian. Hopefully, you know, this doesn't go on much longer and we find him, you know. That's what really needs to happen, you know. But I don't have to tell you guys that. All right, dragons. I'll see you guys tomorrow.